We are live. Let's check if LinkedIn has told people that we are here, Eric.
Great. Good
We have
afternoon.
good afternoon, good evening, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Good
Now
evening
we
to you.
are, now we are live directly from São Paulo in Brazil and St. Louis in the US.
Yeah.
I just want to say hello to everyone, and I'm going to say something in Portuguese now, Eric. Oi,
Go
todo
ahead.
mundo. Boa noite, bem-vindos e bem-vindas. Essa live vai ser em inglês. Nós estamos com um convidado, Erick Prado. Ele é mexicano, fala espanhol. Eu, brasileira, falo português. E nós vamos fazer a live em inglês. Espero que vocês consigam acompanhar, aproveitem, façam perguntas. E agora a gente volta para o inglês. Sorry, Eric, just introducing a little bit about the live and the languages, because you speak Spanish, I speak Portuguese, and here we are with English. So I just wanted you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, and so people get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you, Luciana, for having me, and thank you. Hi to everyone. I could understand everything you said, but if you make me speak in Portuguese, that will be a different story. But I got it. I understood it. So that's good. So my name is Erick Prado. I'm from Mexico. I work in the US. I've been working now. It's going to be my 10-year anniversary in October, and I've been working for Anheuser-Busch. It's known for Budweiser now for the past 4 years. Prior to that, I worked at Monsanto, biotech. So it was headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri. Now it got acquired by Bayer in Germany, but still it's an important headquarter here in the US. And I've been working in finance throughout my career. So I'm married. My wife Claudia, and I have two daughters, Sofia and Elisa. They are almost 4 years and 1 year this summer. So, very very excited with having the opportunity to play with my daughters. But we were talking how challenging that was, especially for me last year while working. So definitely, an experience. But now it's my first day in the office today, after almost a year. So, kind of readjusting back to coming to the office.
Oh, wow. Special day, the first live and from the office.
Live
First
from
day
the
after a
office.
year. Good. So, Eric, tell us, you mentioned a little bit about your background in finance. You talked a little bit about the companies you've worked for and that you're working for. But tell us a little bit more. What did you study? How did you start your career? How things happened? How did you move? So we get to know a little bit about your history there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I studied economics in Mexico City. And since that, I always liked it to numbers and the economy. So after finishing school, I had the opportunity to join Monsanto in Mexico. So I wanted to be part of a multinational company, and for me, one of my goals was to actually get an MBA and come to the US. Really, the proximity with Mexico and the US is always there, so always had the chances to come here for vacation, and it's something that I really like it. So I started, as I said, in Mexico. I worked there for a couple of years, Luciana, but then an opportunity came for me to join a role in the US. To be honest, I wasn't expecting it was going to be so fast, but I do want to talk a little bit about the opportunities when they present it. And sometimes it could be when you don't imagine it could be. And so I have a close friend in Mexico that Yves Ramirez, he was working also with me, and he told me, hey, there are people that are coming from the US. Do you want to take them to the pyramids to do like a sightseeing before we work the next day? So they came on the weekend. I was like, sure. And honestly, during that trip, they asked me like, oh, so we've been working. Would you be interested in coming to the US? Like while we were, in a pyramid. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And like, 2 months later, it was already applying for the role and jumping into a plane and coming to St. Louis. So it just happened very quick, but it's important when you want something, it might not be in the place that is going to happen, but you gotta just jump in when there is the opportunity. So that's how it happened,
Wow. That is a good part, like to be prepared for the opportunity and to express that what you want, right? And so you wanted to have an experience in the US. So
Right.
people knew that, or they asked you and you let them know. So that is something that is very important. And I remember when we were working on your process that we talked about my career. And I remember very vividly when you mentioned like, wow, Luciana, you always said what you wanted. You
Yeah.
always voiced it out. So you did it too.
Yes.
So the opportunity came very fast. And how was it like personally to do this move and to be, because it was faster than you expected?
Yeah.
And how was it professionally?
Yeah. So, after that, things have to, play it out because I came, as an analyst. So it wasn't like some cases where people come as expats and, things get to a different level. They'll bring families. And so it's just a different adjustment. I really came in an entry level and just came by myself. So that was the first thing that was an adjustment to a city that I've never, visited before. And the one thing that I did, it was just connected with like the Latin network in St. Louis. So I got to start to connect with a few people here right away from the company because it was a multicultural company. So a lot of people from all around the world. And that was like my first family outside Mexico. But at the same time, I had to struggle with the language because it's not the same to have a meeting in English and speak poorly and you are done and you go back to, talking to your friends in Spanish and that's it. Oh, sorry. I'll have to just jump in a little bit because I'm in a meeting room, so they think there is nowhere here. So
technology, the manual technology.
Yeah, but going back to, it was very hard. The first 3 months, I was like almost crying and I want to go back to Mexico. This is not for me, just trying to say like, why did I come so quickly? I should have prepared more, but, just trying to be resilient and helping me with my family there in Mexico, but at the same time trying to continue to start to get roots here in St. Louis and improve little by little, because it was a role that I didn't even really want it, to be honest. I just wanted more the opportunity than the role itself. So I knew I had to go in a role that maybe it was not what I wanted, but I did wanted to come to the US. So I have to compromise on that one. Yeah. And so I struggled with that. But, through, I would say, just like hard work and trying to talk to people, hey, can you explain me how you do this? And learning from others, after 6 months, I think I started to adjust better. And then 6 months later, I get married in Mexico and then my wife came. And so basically I felt like, really happy. But then my wife was going through that adjustment that I went through. So, that it was hard, but I'm glad that I stayed, right? Now it's been 10 years and I'm glad that I was able to manage through that adversity and just receive a lot of help from people here in St. Louis. So that was very nice.
I like everything that you mentioned there because first you started saying, when I moved here, it was everything very different. I've never been in this city before. So I reached out for the Latin America network.
Community. Yeah.
So that is something that we work a lot, and a lot of people know network. Build your network and how that is important, not only for your career to develop, but it's important for you to get support, for you to learn new things, for you to adapt to a city, to a state, to a country. To like really have someone that you feel like, okay, I can try to be friends with this person as well.
Yes, so absolutely.
So that is very important. And I think it's very interesting when we really need it. We don't have a lot of problems going there and asking for help and trying to network. Right?
Yes.
Oh, I don't need that much. I don't know. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, who I'm going to meet, how I'm going to do this, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like when you have the time and you, like, I'm a people person, so I rather to be with people that are alone. I was just like trying to make friends, as much as I could. I was hanging out with people that were, like older, younger than me, all over the place. But it was a really fun year at the end because you have to be intentional. I think if you wait for it to happen, it's harder. So but if you're intentional, and then you have to pick and choose. You cannot be everywhere all the time, but being intentional and having opportunities to connect with people from different backgrounds is something that really, really helped me to navigate through the year, right?
Amazing. And the other part that I think it's very important is how it was like a struggle for you, and how you made a choice, and which was very important. I chose coming to the US because I wanted to build my career and part of my life in the US. It wasn't so much about the role. I didn't like the role or had experience in the role or had interest in the role that much, but that was something that was worth for what I wanted in my main goal afterwards. But you struggled. You made like a rational choice and you struggled, which is like everybody will do the same. Like we choose something and we struggle, because when we're choosing, we're seeing the bright side. And when we are leaving it, there is the hard part as well. And if you honor that struggle, if you like, okay, I need to learn, I'm going to ask more questions, I'm going to talk to this person, I'm going to do this and that, then after a while, it gets better.
Yeah.
So I think it was very interesting that like you really went through this. And that's why we say like, don't give up on everything. You can give up, like after a year, you're like, no, this is really not what I wanted. It's not what I chose. But don't give up in the first couple of months, in the first 6 months.
Exactly.
Something takes time, right?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. It takes time, and to your point, like it's both the pros and cons. But if you know like why you want it, and you look, I think that's what you show me, Luciana, is like you need to see from a holistic approach. You cannot just see what is in front of you, but you need to look at the surroundings and put that into perspective. And so I think that's really what it's all about when you're thinking about your career. And you've mentioned before, it's about not only professional career, it's what's your personal career, what is your purpose. It's the same when you are making a big commitment and a different, in this case, it was moving from Mexico to St. Louis. It was, okay, it's for the mid to long term. It's not only for the next role. And if I don't like it, I want to go back, So, yeah.
Great. You remember everything.
I do. I have to remember a lot, because sometimes I kind of struggle, and then I have to remember the full picture.
Right. So tell me more. Then after you got married, your wife went to the US, came, like I'm in St. Louis now. I'm not. So your wife went to the US with you, and then you were building your life there and your career. What happened next? Because then you developed your career and then you moved to a different company as well. So tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. So after my wife came, basically, she was like, okay, we're here, but when are we going back, right? That was the question. And so I said, hey, I would like to do an MBA program, because that was also one of the reasons why I wanted to come. But I was procrastinating. I was like, let's take some time. And so for her was like, okay, so you want an MBA and then we go back. So the next day I had already like books for doing the GMAT and applying for schools, because that was the next thing that we had to do. And so basically we did the MBA together, which actually is something that I really enjoyed, because it was like my wife studies marketing, I was finance. And so we were like, helping each other through the courses and on the same page when we have to do homework, when we can go out. And so that's basically what I did as far as my part-time MBA program. And then I had a second role that was another challenge for me, because from moving to being in roles supporting Latin America because of my language, supporting Colombia, Venezuela, Mexico, Guatemala, it was now I want to go and support the US business, which is, in size, is the largest business. And, I'm from Mexico, but I want to try it. So I apply, and I got the opportunity, and I spent 3 years working on managing now the US business for finance on inventory while doing the part-time MBA program. And so that, again, another getting out of the comfort zone and learning, new things. And while doing that, just working through the MBA, that was very, very good. And then I think after that, all my next roles have been easier to adjust because of those two struggles that I had. One, moving from one country to another, learning in a different language. And then the second role that was moving from something that is in your language to a role that is US. And that combination has helped me for upcoming roles is easier and easier, because there are less things that I need to adjust or learn. I can focus more just on some of the technical and management things. But I think that's also something like, if you're open to, have new opportunities and have some cross-functional, even within finance, but cross-functional experience that builds up into your experience, that is going to make it easier as you continue to grow.
I do agree with you. Yes. Like, those are building blocks. So yes. I say, like, when people say, what is needed for me to be a more complete professional, for me to build a career that I'm going to be able to be a specialist, but also a generalist, so I'm going to know a lot of things, it's just like, you need to have critical experiences. So you had critical experience when you move from one location to another, even if it's in the same country. You have a critical experience when you move roles, even if in the same function. Mm-hmm. You have experience when you move regions or countries within your scope, because it's a different way that the not only the people, but the business operates. There are regulations, laws, other types of things that happen, right?
Yes.
So, and when you go from a country to a region role or a global role, you're expanding your vision in different directions. So all of those are critical experiences that when you get it, after a while, you don't need to adjust anymore, because you already stretched yourself into those. So you're just saying that is very important. So you have like a lot of combinations of all of these critical experiences in 2 moves.
Yes.
So that's why it was so much to take in, right?
Yes.
And then it's a little bit better now.
Yes, exactly. And I think, it's then the question becomes more like, can I do it? Is that what I want? Because I think that's also what is important. That, I said, hey, when I moved to the US, I didn't really care about, and I don't mean caring, but it was not the priority that it was the perfect role. It was just the role that it was going to take me to what I wanted to be. But then as you move forward, I'm trying to be more intentional about what I want. And then, being more, like a chess game. And that's what I'm getting from my mentors. Now you start to play the chess game versus just going with the first card, right? And so that's where things had evolved. But, I think when I moved to Anheuser-Busch, the other the story that I can share is, I was very connected to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce here in St. Louis and attending the happy hour events. And through that, through those events, I met a couple that they had moved recently from Mexico to St. Louis, and they had relocated because of AB. And so we just connect right away with them. And so the next day we were going to their house and have dinner. And then they said like, hey, there is this role open in AB. Are you interested? And, that's how the opportunity created again, just by going to dinner, first to the pyramids, then to dinner. And the next day I was like applying and, things move super quick, like, because it's not that easy, and things just start to move. And, a few months later, okay, I was already here at AB after 7 years at Monsanto. But again, like the adjustment, I thought it was going to be harder, at least on the financial side, and it really wasn't, right? Like numbers are numbers. Maybe the culture is different, and that's what I was like, Luciana, I need your help, because I didn't get as much coaching as what I was getting in my prior company, but on the adjustment side, I wasn't adjusting to a new city. It was really just to a new culture, new company. But quickly I start to do well with my stakeholders and my manager. But that's basically the story of how I got into AB.
So forget about LinkedIn, forget about job posting. It's just going to the pyramids and having dinner with friends. Then you find a job role for you.
That's where the opportunities are. I can tell you what is the pyramid. Maybe not all of the pyramids. It has to be a specific pyramid.
That one specifically on that day, that time of the day, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, but it's true. It's networking. It happens in, it's not that formal, and I think sometimes if you force things too much, that's when it slows down. That's the reality.
Yeah. And to be prepared and to know what you want when the opportunity presents to you, then you can evaluate and take action into that. That is very important, like you did. So you mentioned about that when I looked for you, Luciana, for coaching. So let's go into that part of the story. Let's talk a little bit, because I wanted people to also get to know not only you and your story, but a little bit more about coaching process. Why did you look for it? Why did you choose me, Luciana? How did you find me, and how it works and the transformation results you got? So the journey, we're going to talk a little bit, because there are a lot of people who hear about coaching. Some people know more about it, some people don't. And in Brazil right now, there are a lot of people who are coaches, and some people have more experience on the corporate world and some others don't. And there are some people who get like, I'm not sure if I can trust Luciana because I don't know her, I don't know her work, and how coaching can actually add value to me and to my life and my career, and how that can happen actually. So I was like, why not invite you, Erick, to tell your story, because it's better listening from someone who is the client and not only from what Luciana talks about it, right?
Yeah.
So tell me, what was happening when you looked for coaching?
So I was, I think it was probably a year or so that I had been working at the AB. And, again, like the work itself, it was, fine, but the culture, it was what, it was an adjustment. And so what it happened is I wasn't really getting a lot of time to look for coaches inside the company. While in my prior company, it was very common, like, hey, part of your developing plan is to pick your mentors throughout the year, and you have one-on-ones regularly. And so that inside coaching that I had before, I didn't have it here, just because I hadn't really built the relationships, and my main focus was on getting the job done versus trying to do networking, right? And so that was one thing. And then, I remember that while I was looking, at LinkedIn, I somehow run into you in LinkedIn. I look at your profile that you were a coach, and like it was the first time that I was just trying to get a sense of that. And then that you also work in finance and at Monsanto. So for me, that was like, you are not only like a academic coach, like it's just gonna show you the books, what they say, but you also have the corporate experience. So you will know when I'm talking about something, you will know what I'm talking about because you have that corporate experience. And for me, that combination made it so powerful to say, I need to talk to you,
Amazing, amazing. And the finance part, was it something that you thought would help as well, or only the corporate experience?
No, I think, to be honest, it was again, like, I think most of the coaching that I had before, it was more on the corporate side and around work. So that was the first thing that I wanted to tackle, and it really took me by surprise, all the other different aspects that is more the personal, the kind of spiritual, if that makes sense, your purpose. And so that was something that I wasn't looking for, but it was like a huge good surprise that came. And I was like, now that I think about it, that I can reflect about it, I think it was good that I didn't have coaching internally, because I was able to be coached by you, right? So because you give that extra mile, and that's something that that's what I'm saying. Like, it really helped me to put things into context, and I think having an external coach is also very healthy, because you can open up yourself more. You cannot, and I'm a little bit, I wouldn't say shy, but I'm a little bit closed, on terms of opening myself. But like with you, it's not like you work on the same company, so I can say whatever I want, and have a conversation and real feedback. And I think the same to you. Like, you were kind of, Erick, you need to do this, you need to do that, because you are also, there is no
conflict of interest, right?
Yes, conflict of interest or protocols that we need to follow because we're on the same place. It's really more like transparent, and so that was like eye-opening, and really took coaching to a different level for what I had experienced before.
Amazing. So, Erick, tell me a little bit more. So you mentioned I was looking for someone who could help me with coaching in my career. So you were looking into corporate experience and career. What was it? What was your struggle? What was your main struggle at the time that you was like, okay, I need someone to support me. I'm missing something here.
Yeah, so I think, again, one, it was just the lack of it, because I was used to have a lot of mentorship and coaching before, and so I had that need that I said, I'm missing this piece that it will help me to navigate. And so the lack of it made me look for it. But then also that internally, I think, as working a lot, long hours, kind of stress about like things, of how I was managing my routines, managing my day to day, and just trying to also see like, how can I, continue to grow in my career, and trying to always look for that advice as well of what other, what options I have for career growth. And again, it came at a time when, working a lot of time, stress about, things that were going on. And so that's what I'm going back to, like, having an external coach really allowed me to open and find those spots, that I had, in order to work on them and improve. And so that's what I think it was really quickly when I start to see the results, because it wasn't, something that it was very broad and, hey, what did you like to do today? And here's, coffee chat. It was actionable things that, okay, we need to work on this and this and this, and this, and then that helped to see the results.
Amazing. Yeah, and that is something that we do in the beginning of each coaching process. So I need to understand who is the client, who are you, Erick, and what are your objectives, what are your goals with coaching, what do you want to reach, because then we can understand, okay, how I'm going to measure you got there, right? I'm going to know that you got that result, because sometimes the result is not only getting a promotion or changing companies or transitioning areas. During the process, you get other things about feelings as well, and the way that you start approaching situations, communicating with people, the feedback you get, that adds up to the results that comes within some time. So I think it's very important that you mentioned that it's very actionable. We talk, but we do have to do things. We do have to act on them, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
And something, it was like, did you have any doubts when we were talking at first, like about, oh, it's going to be too hard, too time consuming, or the investment is too high? I'm not sure that the results that I'm going to get is going to be worth the time and the money that I'm going to put on it. Did you have any questions around that?
No, I think that's a really good question, because especially if it's something that you haven't done before, you can have those doubts, right? Like, I can try to do this and that and try to have shortcuts. I'm going to read this book, I'm going to talk to my uncle, like all of that help. But this is like a personalized, it's like getting a teacher. Like, I play tennis. I can, watch a video of how to play tennis, but this is a one-on-one. You are looking me doing a movement and say, you got to correct this, you got to correct that. So I think I didn't have the doubt that it was going to be very beneficial. Obviously, on the cost side, I saw like, hey, this is because it's one-on-one. It's not, it's not, let's do this workshop for, 50 people. That's where obviously it has to do an investment on my side. But I mean, it was the best investment I could have done, right? Because the return, it came in so many ways, right? And so, it came through a promotion, but also manage better my routines, be more, increase my productivity, and having very good performance in that year. So it was a year where, I start to be more organized, start to set up the right priorities, be an architecture of your time, instead of you. I remember I told you, hey, Luciana, this is my calendar, and you are like laughing, like, where are you, like, just like doing anything in the evenings, or where are you looking emails, right? The first thing. So it's like, you gotta be very strategic with your time. And so that year I made all those step changes, and then the end was like, really good with my manager, but my wife also was like, oh, I'm seeing how you are less stressed, you are enjoying more to spend time outside work. So, I mean, it was just so many angles, right, on that, I will say, investment. And it's for you, like, you are doing the investment for you. It's not something like, you're buying a product. You're not, you are the first that are getting the benefits right away.
I love that. It's just like you it's the investment for you. You are the product. Like,
Yeah.
you can use yourself for the rest of your life, and you're gonna get better, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, I remember I talked to your wife after the process, and she was like, "Oh, Erick really changed." Because when we work, Erick, I'm working with you, and I think this is amazing to get feedback from 360. And 360 is not only in the company, is on your personal life. Like you mentioned a few questions before, the process of coaching is not about career only.
Yeah.
It's not about only high performance. It's about you being one person, and you have one life, and how do you live your best version and you get the best results living your life. I remember telling you that I tell everybody, enjoy the ride. We have to enjoy the ride. It has to be the whole part of it.
Yes.
And we have to have that commitment with our personal life and with our professional life. And let me ask you, when you do have those two parts working, does it go even better? Do you think like, oh, I have personal life now, and this helps me professionally, supports me? And when I'm doing well on professionally, does this support my personal life? Did
Yeah,
that
I
happen?
mean, it's a balance. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And again, like, I remember I was telling you, like, hey, I'm so stressed because of this situation, and just telling you the problem, and you were like, yeah, but that's not your problem. You are stressing for other people's problems. So you also gotta do, like, is it with you? Is it personal? And it was like, no, you're right. So, I think just to, kind of bring the emotion down and the anxiety down, it helps both, right? It will help you to be better at work, but then also better, at home. And so it starts to be a good cycle of good things coming in. And for me, that continues until this year, until today, right? After we had those conversations, obviously with COVID, that was a new shock. And so I think like that's what I think coaching is not just like a 7, it has to continue, right? And you need to continue to work on yourself, because it was a new shock for sure, and so new things to learn from it. But yeah, it was really a positive cycle, and I got it from both ends. I got the feedback from my family, how I was, like just my face, how I was at night, how I was just happier. And then when it got my evaluation at work, it was like, you are excelling, you are a top performer. And with a culture that I thought it was all about, like, putting here like all the time and all the effort. And I was like, I'm changing that rule, which I'm putting all the effort, but not necessarily through just burning myself out, but to being more productive, to be more strategic, to be more intentional. And I think that's what it made me the happiest person, because I thought that was not possible.
Amazing. Yeah, that's like, that is being intentional. That's being like feeling that is progress in your life. And I say, like, do your life's work and not busy work. So choose strategically what you're going to work on, so you get the results. Like when you mention, oh, I needed to be intentional for my next role, not only for your next role, but for your goals within the year, with the projects that you're doing, how you're going to communicate and present your network, how do you do that, and be intentional how we're going to be at home with your family, with your friends. And that is I think that is the secret. Like, if there is going to be magic, the magic is this. It's like really understanding how to apply that.
Yes.
And of course, with the pandemic, it was very hard for everyone. It still is. And how did you apply some of the things that you learned during your coaching process and afterwards that you're using? How did you connect that to your life with the pandemic? How did that support you with this time?
For me, I think what I try to do is, it was really just to kind of set up the priorities, and I had a path, right, to get there. So for example, like last year, well, the pandemic hit, I had transitioned to a new role, and the person that had my role, I had to still train him through this process. So the first 3 months of that 4-5 months were extremely hard. But what I did is I need to build a plan that is sustainable. And I think you told me, like, you have to basically prepare the plan. And so that's what I did. I kind of prepared the plan. And once the plan was ready, I communicated, hey, this is my idea. This is what I'm going to do. And then I did start to transition. So even though, the first 5 months were really hard, then things start to improve. And then even now it's even better. So I think it takes time. But what you show me, Luciana, is if you just keep it for yourself and you don't propose a plan to your manager, to your team, things are not going to improve. And you will keep complaining and saying, this is bad, this is wrong, and, things are not going to change. So I think that's what I applied. I knew it was going to be hard the first, months, but then eventually I had this plan in place to do a healthy transition, a smooth transition, and start to, focus in the next thing that always show up. And then obviously also trying to balance that with my, with my routine and trying to balance things with my wife, because she was working full time. So while we had to take care of our daughter. So having open communication with my manager about, hey, I'm going to be these 2 hours with, my girls, or, things like that, was always very, very good. And so I think that's how I applied, what I've learned, plus all the other, productivity things that I continue to carry on.
That's really nice to hear. And how important it is for us to communicate and to give solutions. Not only, like, sometimes we need support, and we may need some guidance as well. But when we are voicing what our plans, what you're thinking, the solutions we are proposing, that is what is expected of every professional. But even like when you're a manager, senior manager, director, that is what it is that we need to do. It's not only waiting to receive orders or to receive guidance. We need to communicate, and we need to really handle things that way, and how that helps everybody, your boss, your leader, your team, yourself, your family. And when you set expectations right, then things can happen in the time that you proposed, when things with the people that you proposed, right?
Yes, and if anything, Luciana, I do that very well with my manager because I built this trust. But if what I've learned is you have to do it more, not less. You have to be more vocal, in a positive way, in a healthy way. But the more you do it, people will appreciate it because you're speaking up about how do you want to improve things and bring solutions to the problems versus not saying anything and then behind the scenes, complaining about it or just keeping it for yourself. So that's even what I have to do. I just need to keep building up on that, but with not only, my direct reports or, with my manager, but with everyone else.
Let me ask you, how do you use the things that you learned in the coaching process for yourself? How do you use that with your team?
So what I did is I told them about blocking your calendar, because they are like, oh, I'm so busy. And, like I'm jumping from one meeting to the other. And it's like, can you just block time for yourself? Like just block your calendar for these 3 hours tomorrow. Because you remember I shared with you my calendar and I have like 30 minutes every other day. And you were like, that's a joke. Like once you have 30 minutes, you are just skipping that and you're not doing anything. So you need to be like, what is actually the amount of time that I will need to get this done? And then, instead of booking here and there, just set up time and put 3 hours, block it and get it done. And so managing the calendar, I've shown that to everyone, like, to my boss, to the teams and say, let's book time to get things done, right? I think obviously the other part, and it came at a time where being a dad is harder, but the networking is something that also I think needs to continue to be important. And so it also depends on your stage and your priorities that you have, outside your work and that, but that's also very important. And so I think in my case, just continue to build relationships, and I need to grow on that even more. But I try to do it whenever there is an opportunity and someone reach me in LinkedIn and, hey, can we chat about this workshop that we have and with other FP&A leaders? I jump in, even though I know it's hard and you need to put the effort, but just doing it helps you. And then once I did it, the next question with my company was at, my evaluation, have you looked for opportunities outside your company to bring in an external, like they actually are looking for that. Sorry, I have to wait. But they are looking for those, thinking outside the box to also bring ideas to the company. So, it's also like you have to do it just to get out of the routine. And so that's again, the networking. But for me, time management, it's been like, a game changer as far as like, how do you, because once you do that setup of your agendas, then you're actually finished the week and you can say, I accomplished things, versus the week just flew by and I still have so many things to do.
Yes. Yeah. And choosing your priorities for the year, for the month, for the week, for the day, because then like priority, which is like, should be a singular word instead of being plural, because then we actually know what is really moving the needle, what is actually going to take us into the progress, right? It's amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. And you mentioned already what results you have until today, like you mentioned on the pandemic as well, that I wanted to ask you. And now my question for you is, why would you recommend coaching to someone? When you recommend it to someone, what did you say? Why do you tell people, oh, you should do this?
Yeah. One is, I think like everybody should do coaching. Like because especially like if it's so broad, and you need to know why you want it. To your point, if you just want to do it because you just want to check the box, I don't think that's the right start. You need to have some idea of either what you're looking for or what you're struggling with that you want to improve. Yeah. But I think, why to coaching, I think is because, if you want to grow, and it doesn't have to be necessarily within your career, but if you want to improve the way you are doing things, that's when it's important, because you are going to give tools to make you better, as a professional, as on the personal matter. And so that's if you are looking for growth, if you are looking to, look at different angles, having someone giving you a different perspective of how you are seeing things versus getting an input from an expert, I think that's why coaching is important. And let me tell you this, like many times after, you and I talked about, my sessions, Luciana, some way or the other, either through books, listening to a podcast, what you taught me comes back. Like, and so it's like a proven method that you have of, putting a lot of really good things together into, it's kind of, very intense training sessions that are happening. And every day was like, wow, it was eye-opening. It was a lot of work. It's like more than an MBA class, but they are so they were so intense as far as like, I'm not saying intense in a bad ways, but they were just with a lot of content that after, going through listening to other people, that's exactly what you need to do to be successful. Like, it's really about being successful. It's really trying to be about, improving, being better. So I think that's what I think. If you really want to improve, do things, getting a different angle, you should do it, right? It's a must.
Wow. What a recommendation. I love it. Yes, it is a lot of things. And when we are doing, even when I do groups, but when you're doing one-on-one, it's get even more personalized, is more like really to you and only you. You don't have to share attention in between other people, but it's like, the method is like, I didn't study only one method. I have my experience and I have different methodologies that I study and certificated for, and also everything that I know I applied and worked. And I keep learning, not only through courses, but with my clients. Like, we are always learning. It's personal development, so I'm learning with myself, I'm learning with others, and how that is so good to see. Like, for me, the best result is when someone says something like that. It's for you to grow, is for you to improve yourself, is for you to expand and to shift your lenses, shift your mindset to see things in a different perspective. And that it is what is about. And you can do it on your own, for sure you can, but it's so helpful when you have someone else to add and get out of your blind spots, because we do have blind spots. I do have blind spots, and I do have my coach. So it's very intense, and I think it's very strong, the experience. Like, because you are learning so much about yourself. Like, things are so different than I thought. And I think it's kind of like, even like the movie Matrix, sometimes that you get out and you're like, oh, now I see, I understand. Everything is completely different.
And it helps you also to put your feet on earth with like, so many times you are thinking back into circles. I should be doing this, I should be doing that. But because you focus on the foundation, on the purpose, it's easier to come back to that foundation and go back to the why, and then you move on, versus you stop, asking yourself many things. Why did I choose this? Why did I decided that? It's like, you did it for a reason. If it was the right reason, this is why. And now whenever you got to think about that again, oh yeah, I remember it was because of this, and I have this purpose, and I move on. So it also helps you to move forward instead of going back. And I think you said because this is an investment. I think is if you invest a little bit, you get a little bit. If you invest a lot, and it doesn't mean just about the money, but it's also the time, the effort that you put, you get a lot. Because again, this is an investment. So the more you put, the more you get.
Yes. And let me ask you about the purpose part, because that is something that a lot of I have some clients, they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about purpose because a lot of people are talking about purpose, and so it's kind of like popular, but I don't know how to get it. How was it for you to go through the exercise of like really understand what your purpose is, and to get into the conclusions that you just mentioned about how purpose is important? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I think for me, again, like I think it wasn't easy because it didn't come as natural. Like, oh, what do you think? It really made me think about it, right? That you have some ideas, but you really never spend, at least in my case, I really never had to ask very focused, very deep, what's your purpose, and put it in a sentence. So it wasn't easy. And again, I was like, okay, what should I say? I don't know. But then the more, start to think about it, it start to be, again, the foundation, the base of everything that is going after that. And so once, I start to put that together with you, it was a very, genuine purpose that, now when I think about it, is, it didn't have to say, I want to grow, I want to be a director, it doesn't have to do with that. It's with what is your purpose in life. Like if you were going to die tomorrow, what is what you want to do? And so I think that's what you also feel like you are doing something good, because when you put into perspective where you are and you are kind of aligned with that purpose, then it instead of makes you feel bad, it actually makes you feel good. Like, okay, I need to walk towards this purpose and keep this in mind as I'm continuing to make choices, as I continue to work in my next plans.
Wow. Yeah, it's important. I love it, and all my clients love it afterwards. But some of them are very resistant in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, that is very important. No, but I want to work on productivity. I'm like, this is more important. This is going to help you with the productivity part. It's very important. Do you agree? It helps.
Yes, I think that's, you don't see it first sight because it's kind of, like I will say, like it's more on the philosophical side, if you want to put it that way. It's not as, like rational as, productivity, networking, but that's the foundation. Like if you don't know why are you doing things, then you can do all the other things good, but then, it's going to be like, okay, at the end you can get kind of lost. So just do one more waving here.
I love your light.
I'm still here.
It's back.
We're saving light. It's a sustainable, meeting room.
And it makes you exercise and stretch. So it's amazing.
Yeah, you have to do your stance.
Good. So Erick, I think we're coming to the end. It's almost 8 p.m. here in São Paulo. So I wanted to see if anyone have any question. I asked before if anybody had any questions, or if anybody would like to give any comments or insights they had during the live. Alguma pergunta, pessoal? Algum insight que vocês tiveram que quer deixar aqui enquanto a gente vai encerrando hoje? So Erick, I asked you before this interview, right? To think about something inspirational, a quote that you like, or something that it comes to your mind, maybe something you learned within your family, or anything. I don't know if you thought about something you would like to share with us.
Yeah, I think for like I like the quote, when Steve Jobs is giving his, he's giving just a speech to college grads, and he's talking about like connecting the dots and like stay humble, stay hungry. That's always for me important. You always need to be humble about what you do, and at the same time continue to try to build to do better, try to improve on what you do, be better every day, be better than the prior day. And I think that's why it stick to me when he's saying connect the dots, and then when you look back, now you are okay. I took these choices, and now it's easier for me to do this next thing. But at the same time, never think about like how you treat others and how you perform, how you respect others. I think that's always important with being humble. And I think that's what I just seen with my family as well, coming back from my parents, and they always, did better for us, and always trying to improve, trying to give us everything they could. So that for me is always the mindset of doing the same for my family and where I work.
Amazing, very inspiring. I love that speech as well.
Yeah.
Erick, Pablo had a question for you. He's asking like, Erick, what do you think which Latin America culture can contribute to the internal culture of American companies in the US? How do you feel like Mexico, Brazil can contribute to the companies in the US?
I think, I've seen a lot of talent in my experience from all the cultures. I think at the end is the Latin American culture as a whole. It's not one country per se. What they look into us, because we're a little bit more open. We work hard, but we're also like the social aspect. We think outside the box. We're always trying to find if this road is closed, now I'm going to go there and I'll do the next one. And so, here in Anheuser-Busch, a lot of people from Brazil, Mexico, Peru, Colombia. In the same it was in Monsanto, a lot of people from Argentina. And so I cannot say, it's a country per se, but it's just more what they value, and at the same time, they have a lot of, the market for them. These companies are, very committed to those markets in Latin America, in Brazil, in Colombia, and they are also growing. So that's the other thing. Like the US is very hard to grow now. If anything, we've been slowing down the growth because competition is tough. It's a lot of competitors. It's a huge market. It's already very mature. And when you're thinking about the other economies, are still like growing very fast. And so it's really what I've seen is they bring talent to the US because they like their energy of the people, and you saw it when you were working here, and you help them as a bridge to connect the cultures and trying to work with other cultures. So I think that's why it's I wouldn't say per se it's a country. It's really the whole culture that I've seen is value, and even more and more with all what I'm seeing, it's value more. And I think that's what I like about, even though I'm in St. Louis, in the Midwest, when I'm coming to the office, I'm comfortable about, being where I am. I'm from Mexico, I speak Spanish, but I can, voice my opinions. I can talk to someone in Espanol when I'm, in the office, and it's not like I need to hide it or something like that, but quite the opposite is an advantage. So very good question. Thank you, Paulo.
Thank you, Pablo. And Paula said it was a very insightful conversation. So Paula, she is my client as well. And she is from Bayer, used to be Monsanto, yes. So I agree with you, Erick. When I was there in St. Louis in Monsanto, we really like the diversity of cultures, not only Latin America, but I think all of the countries. It makes a lot of difference when you mix everybody. Like when I was internal audit, I also had people from Ukraine and from India and Argentina, Brazil, and I don't know. There was Ruchi. She was from Taiwan. So many places and so many cultures, it just enriches so much. And I think the results that the companies get, it's incredible. It's just like, I think it gets exponential when we're like really finding different ways to look at things and finding solutions and to work better together, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Amazing. Well, it's time to go. I just love talking to you, Erick, and I really want to say thank you for you to be available to be here, to tell us about your career, to tell us about your process and how it was. Yeah, I think it is very important for everybody get to know different stories of different people in career, people who are in the US building their career and they are not Americans. So it's a different perspective and how it is possible in different ways, the struggles, the learnings. And I just want to thank you so much for being here today. And thank you everyone for watching us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Luciana. Anything, that I can help with. And if anyone wants to connect, have any questions about, the US or, if they are interested at some point to work, I can also help with that and give some advice. But, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Yeah, just do you still wanna have happy hours after the pandemic there? Because I remember when I did the workshop there, it was happy hour day. So
Yeah, right now I think they do a little bit of social distance happy hour. I'm tired of the Zoom happy hours. Like if someone invites me to a Zoom happy hour, I'm not gonna attend those. Those are done. I'm done with those. But hopefully we can. I'm right now, I'm right now starting to be more hopeful on getting into some of these happy hours and visiting friends and so on. So getting ready to connect, but as the company says, let's do it safely.
yes, yes, for sure. So okay, let's go. Thank you again, Erick. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.